going on, Jerome's? So I know we've talked about this before, but as the NFL trade deadline is approaching, the specter, the notion of potentially trading Jordan Addison is coming into focus yet again. And I know, like, basically for the last 2 years, it's been talked to death, especially since Addison's had his legal issues, and also the fact that he got suspended, for a quarter against the Browns. The question is he going to be part of the Vikings long term? But also the fact that he's extremely, extremely talented means that he is going to have a lot of trade value. So it's something that the Vikings need to consider basically at all times. Also, the Vikings, in my opinion, should be buyers at the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up on November 4th. But these next 3 games are also going to determine things. Like, if the Vikings somehow, some way, not going to happen, but if they lose these next 3 games and they're 3-5, maybe they're not buyers at the trade deadline. But if and when the Vikings go 3-0 or even 2-1 these next 3 weeks, Vikings certainly could be buyers at the deadline, right? So this could shake out a number of ways. Also, the fact that there are viable wide receiver needy trade options out there, whether it's the Patriots, the Buffalo Bills, which I don't know if Jordan Addison follows the same path as his friend and mentor Stephon Diggs from Minnesota to Buffalo. Maybe we'll get back a first-round pick that leads us to Justin Jefferson too. I mean, we'll take that. The Giants, after Malik Neighbors got injured. Also, if you're the G-men and Neighbors is going to be back next year, do you pair him up with Addison for Jackson Dart? Kind of like that. Pittsburgh, of course, saw Addison up close and personal, and never discount, hey, that guy played well against the scouting. Yeah, no big deal, right? And also the fact that, Addison, you missed Addison the first 3 games, and would he have been the cure-all for the offense, the first couple of weeks? Probably not, because the offensive line was that shoddy, but it's definitely been very impactful, the way that free 3 has been going about things, even in 3 quarters. Yeah, free 3 for 3 quarters. He'll get it done. Catching the game winner, Ben Lieber, catching everything for posterity here. It's good to go. But a couple factors to consider when you think about trading Jordan Addison, because number one, like, he and Jefferson are the best wide receiver duo in the National Football League. Respect to Jamar and T. Higgins, especially with Jumpin' Joe Flacco at quarterback, as well as Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, who we'll see on Sunday. But these two, man, averaging 167 yards a game these last 2 games, it's going to make life easier for a quarterback, whether it's J.J. McCarthy, whether it's Carson Wentz, whether it's whoever, right? But a couple factors. Number one, can you trust him long term, right? And, Addison with the whole speeding incident, got to check on his dog, then the DUI, and then just the weird going AWOL, allegedly, and then just getting suspended for a quarter like this is some D2 program. I don't know, man. And also the fact that Addison, coming off suspension, he knows he's under a microscope. He's eligible for an extension after this season. Let's get paid. And then you still are irresponsible, reportedly, allegedly, before the London game. It's just, I don't know. Also, it factors into number 2, do you plan to extend him long term? Because a huge part of that is, can you trust him? Because giving Addison some huge money, will there be outs if he gets suspended, which most contracts do, or conduct detrimental to the team, etc. Also, the fact that the wide receiver 2 contract market is huge right now. We're probably looking at, if Addison gets paid this offseason, taking care of him early, which is smart, probably looking at $29-30 million per year, pretty easily. Because, I mean, if T. Higgins is worth $28.75, Jalen Waddle's up there as well, especially Jamison Williams, if he's up there averaging $26 million per year plus, Addison's getting 30. All right, because as we've said, Addison has firmly established himself as one of the best wide receiver 2s in the National Football League. But also, could he and his representation deem that he should be paid like a wide receiver 1, because he would be a wide receiver 1 on most teams around this league, right? But would he want to stay here to remain with Justin friggin' Jefferson, who he's acknowledged, like, hey, I'm better because of Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's better because of me. That whole situation. But I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a huge commitment, especially when the Vikings are snug against the cap in 2026, 2027. But I don't know. What's the plan here? And we'll say this, because even though logically, it does make sense to consider trading Addison, there hasn't been any legitimate steam. Pelissero. Sources say that Jordan Addison is on the trade block. There hasn't been any of that. Whether it's this cycle, whether it's last offseason, whether it's been whatever, right? So also number 3, what are you getting? Right? What's the plan here? Now, as we said from the jump, I think the Vikings trade deadline strategy is greatly going to be impacted by what happens these next 3 weeks, right? Because if the Vikings win out, if they go 2-1, they should be buying. So I feel like trading Addison should be off the table at the deadline. Maybe you consider it in the offseason if you don't extend him. But also if the Vikings allegedly bomb out, who knows? And the Vikings do have basically their full suite of draft picks for next year, also projected 3rd and 4th rounder because of Darnold and Jones respectively. So you feel kind of good. And again, this is set up more for the Vikings to be buyers at the trade deadline. But also with Addison, I am drawing the line of demarcation where it's like, hey, my personal stance right now with Addison is, do you want to trade him? No, but no, I don't want to trade Addison. I would prefer to extend him at a wide receiver 2 rate. But also, if we get blown away by a deal, I mean, I'm looking more at like a 1st and a 3rd for Addison right now because I do consider him a wide receiver 1, and that would be roughly wide receiver 1 compensation in terms of a player who you're going to have to pay as well. So that has to be factored into the trade. But also, wrong slide. There we go. The whole sexy Dexy Lawrence thing. Dexy's midnight runners. Let's go, man. But like we said, the Giants looking for some wide receiver help. Also, Addison and Neighbors long term for Jackson Dart would be fantastic. But Addison, you do have to factor in for significant compensation in a trade. So, sexy Dexy Lawrence would probably take a first, a couple firsts, and a 3rd. So you factor in the price of Addison, a 1st and a 3rd, plus a 2026 first for Dexy Lawrence. Yeah, I would take that. But also, if the Vikings are indeed going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, you have to balance out, are you looking for future draft picks or are you all in? But also, if you're all in, why are you getting rid of one of your best pieces with Addison? I don't know. It's sort of a complicated mix because number 4, what are your alternatives? Because you have Jefferson. Right. So Jefferson, Addison, basically everyone else. Now, I do love and respect what Jalen Nailor has done this year. And if you trade Addison, do you plan to extend Nailor as your wide receiver 2 next year? I don't know. Like, Nailor just doesn't scream wide receiver 2 to me. I feel like he's a plus wide receiver 3 at this point. Thielen is on the back 9 of his career. Ty Felton, 3rd round pick. Great as a punt gunner. Do you see him as the replacement for Addison long term? Because if that's true, and if you do see Felton stepping up as a wide receiver 2, then it makes a potential trade for Addison much more palatable. Miles Price is great as a return man. Don't really see much on the practice squad. And then also, is this going to be another go fish situation, right? So you trade Addison, you get some draft picks. Do you turn around and then have to draft a wide receiver? I do like my guy Kyle Lemon over at USC. Also, Chris Bell of Louisville, step on up. Do we want a Puka clone? We'll take that. All right. So basically, the 2026 wide receiver class is good. Not as good as 2027 with Smith and whatnot, yeah. But also 2026 free agent wide receivers. Like, what's the plan? We're going to trade Addison and then sign Allen Lazard? Is that the plan? Tutu Atwell? Nah. So, as I said, it's complicated, and it's a topic that's been discussed between Vikings fans on this channel, a lot, because Addison, he's a mercurial talent. He's one of the best wide receiver 2s in the National Football League, but he's complicated. But it's just like, it's like that ex that is bad for you. You know is going to do bad things, but you just can't quit her. I don't know, man. I don't know, but if you get your socks blown off by an offer, consider it. I think that if it can be part of a deal to secure a blue chip player like Sexy Dexy Lawrence, like Jeffrey Simmons, like Sauce Gardner, consider it. But absent that, I mean, Jefferson and Addison together are just phenomenal. And you've seen the very quick impact that Addison has had through 2 games. He's just huge. So I don't know at this point. But as we said, these next 3 games are basically going to determine how the Vikings are going to approach the deadline. So I guess we'll see. Anyways, your thoughts are thoughts. Should the Vikings consider trading Jordan Addison? The answer, I don't know. Let us know your thoughts. Comment section. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol Production.